Get more on this now. We're joined by Karam, head of legal investigation at Corruption Watch. Also from the Active Citizens Movement, Aslam, Mayat. Gentlemen, good evening to you and thank you for your time. Aslam, let me start with you. I mean, here we have a whistleblower who testified, under oath on TV in the most public way, expecting to get some form of protection, and now they feel they have to leave the country. I mean, you must be incredibly worried about this.
Of course, I think society itself, South African society, needs to be concerned. And, unfortunately, he's not the first one. Whistleblowers are abandoned by government, they're abandoned by society, they're abandoned by business, left to their own devices. They lose jobs, they lose incomes, their families break up. Some have committed suicide, and Athol is not the first one to flee the country. There have been others before him. So, yes, it's worrying, but it's just one in a list of persons who've suffered incredible prejudice. They are sued, they don't have financial resources, there's unlimited resources on the side of the perpetrators to lawfare, to finish them from a financial point of view. So it's not only life-threatening, families are threatened, but also financially they are rendered helpless. And yes, it's extremely worrying, but it's not something that's unusual and uncommon, and there is no protection being given to these people. They are abandoned and left alone.
Karam, I mean, you work for Corruption Watch. You'll know this area very well. You'll have spoken to whistleblowers. I mean, there's supposed to be laws in place. I mean, politicians make promises to protect whistleblowers. They're not following through, are they?
No, they're not. And, the bar has also really been raised now by the Zondo Commission. I mean, you just have to go to the president's closing remarks when he testified before the Zondo Commission around the centrality of whistleblowers. If you understand our approach towards fighting whistleblowing, fighting corruption, it's impossible to even conceptualize how we can begin to fight corruption without having courageous people that are willing to blow the whistle. Corruption happens undercover, it happens behind the scenes. We have investigative journalists, we have organizations like the Active Citizens Movement and Corruption Watch, but civil society is not overly empowered to get access to the information required. So there's no way that we can fight corruption without whistleblowers. And if we don't have a culture around whistleblowers and whistleblowing, which is about protection, support, even incentivizing whistleblowing, then we're really dead in the water.
Aslam, we have in the middle of this, we have whistleblowers testifying at the Zondo Commission, but none of the people implicated in that testimony have actually been criminally charged. I mean, if they were criminally charged, if it was clear that there was going to be accountability, consequences for their wrongdoing, it's not just that whistleblower speaks in public. There needs to be consequences that follow for the people who are being implicated. We haven't seen that, as far as I can see, from the Zondo Commission.
Yes, maybe it'll still come when the evidence is finally completed and the report submitted. But until now, there seems to be a lack of action. And this is what's so frightening and disheartening for whistleblowers. They suffer all this prejudice, but they don't get action. Government is very keen to set up commissions of inquiry, and law commissions and public participation when it comes to asking for improvements to whistleblowing legislation. So in other words, nothing happens. Yet you'll find that if for protection of politicians, whether it's local or national, there's immediate response. Bodyguards, blue lights, no shortage of funds given immediately. For them, there's no commissions of inquiry, no public participation, nothing. There instantly things happen. You mentioned legislation. Zondo identified whistleblowing as key to fighting state corruption and also private. We shouldn't forget the the private corruption that takes place, and both of which Corruption Watch and Active Citizens Movement are focused on. Now, Zondo asked for submissions. The Active Citizens Movement gave its submissions, a variety of things, both legislative and non-legislative. As Karam mentioned, you need financial support, you need counseling, you need witness protection, maybe incentivization, getting a portion of the reward, etc. There's a whole host of different things that can be done. And as I say, nothing's going to be done because this is going to be a long haul. Nothing. The other day we heard 100 million rand was lost to Eskom. 100 million rand a month is lost to Eskom. How on earth does 100 million rand a month take place without a host of criminally negligent people at the very least? And what's the result? 2 people arrested and let out on 5,000 rand bail. It's beyond a sick joke. And by the way, I'm not holding my breath for a conviction.
Karam, I mean, if there's no accountability, and if people who are implicated are not held accountable and not charged, and this doesn't happen quickly, it's not going to encourage anyone else to blow the whistle on them, is it? I mean, we'll see the end of a culture of whistleblowing.
No, absolutely. I mean, and this is what I think Aslam's pointing to in terms of how the current system works. Currently, it's a disincentive to come forward, because if you come forward, there's a very strong likelihood you're going to be victimized. You're going to lose your job. You could be placed under serious physical threat. We know in the case of Babita Deokaran, she was assassinated. So we really need a culture shift completely on this, Stephen. The scale must turn in the other direction towards supporting citizens and supporting communities when they do come out and call things out. And waiting for the criminal justice system for accountability will take time. But this is now in the beginning. When the allegations are first emerging, before there's even a trial. So I mean, somebody like Babita couldn't have been put in a witness protection program. But what could have been done for her? Was there a risk assessment done about her safety? In a context where there's not an ongoing trial, what do we deal with in terms of the threats of intimidation? The Harassment Act is not sufficient. So we really need a culture shift, a significant change, and we need government to really put its money where its mouth is now when it comes to putting some kind of mechanisms in place to say we support whistleblowing. It's not just cannot just be a rhetorical exercise anymore.
Karam Singh, Head of Legal Investigation at Corruption Watch. Aslam Mayat from the Active Citizens Movement. Gentlemen, thanks very much indeed for your time on the Pulse. Do appreciate it.